Welcome back to another FPL video, Game Week 38, the last game of the 24-25 season. There's always a lot of stuff going on the last day, so there's still time to make ground in your mini leagues and in the overall ranks as well. In this video, I'll talk about my transfer plans, the watch list, and as always at the end of the video, the captain selection for the next game week. In game week 37, Konsa and Kukurea, they were the top points scorers with goal, clean sheet and maximum bonus of 15 points for them both. Let me know in the comments down below who do you think will be the highest point scorer for game week 38. But for now, let's get into the last team selection video this season, team selection game week 38. So this is my team for game week 38. I have actually two good goalkeepers. I will probably start Raya and bench Areola. Saliba is injured, he might not play, but I will probably just start Saliba. I think that he will either start or not play at all. So Saliba will probably be in my starting 11. I have Munoz and I have Guardiola. I might actually bench Munoz. Williams playing against Chelsea, not the best fixture, so I might actually make a transfer in defense, but I'll talk more about this later. In midfield, Mbumo, De Bruyne, Eze and Jared Bowen, and up front Alexander Isak, Chris Wood and Watkins. Alexander Isak is yellow flagged. I will await for more news from Eddie Howe on Alexander Isak's fitness, but even if he is confirmed to play, he might actually be sold ahead of game week 38. Trippier, he will probably miss game week 38 and have Rodgers on the bench as well. The same goes for Rodgers as with Alexander Isak. He is actually one of the players I might actually sell before game week 38. Before discussing potential transfers and the watch list, I think it makes sense to take a look at the table. We know from the bottom that Southampton, Ipswich and Leicester, they are already relegated. Spurs, Man United, West Ham, Wolves, Everton, Palace, Bournemouth and Fulham, they have nothing left to play for. Brentford, they're 9th and they can actually qualify for Europe if they go above Brighton and finish 8th. This will only happen if Chelsea win the final in the Conference League, but they are favorites, so we might actually see 8 English teams in Europe next season. So a big important game for Brighton and Brentford. So if you have players from Brighton and Brentford in your team, it probably makes sense to play them in game week 38. Moreover, there are other teams that have a really important game in game week 38. There are still teams that will try to fight for a spot in the Champions League. So Arsenal, they are pretty safe, while Chelsea, Newcastle and Man City, they will try to stay above Aston Villa and Forest on the table. So there will be a really exciting game week in game week 38. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it would make sense to target the teams placed 10th and below. So Southampton, Ipswich, Leicester, Spurs, Man United, West Ham, Wolves, Everton, Palace, Bournemouth and Fulham, they are the teams I will try to target in the last game of the season. So this is my watch list for game week 38. I know that Bournemouth, they are actually one of the teams with nothing left to play for, but I really like the fixture playing at home against Leicester, and I think that there will be a lot of goals in this game. Evan Nilsson, he passes the eye test back from injury. He hasn't really scored that many goals since his return from injury, but I think that he looks really good and only selected by 4%, so a really big differential. Priced at 5.8, I think that he is really good value as well, so I think that Evan Nilsson is a really good transfer in for game week 38. In midfield, Saka is my favorite transfer target. His ownership is 17.5%, but this is only in theory because there are a lot of dead teams with Saka in them. Saka, he was one of the most selected players ahead of game week 1. So as with Watkins and Haaland, their effective ownership is much lower, and this is due to them being in a lot of dead teams, and this is because they were so popular ahead of game week 1. So Saka in 10.3 if you can afford him. I think that he is a really good transfer target for the next game week. In defense, my favorite option is Kirkis. Same goes with him as with Evan Nilsson. I know that Bournemouth, they don't have that much to play for, but Kirkis, he will probably try to get a good contract at, let's say, Liverpool. I know that there are a lot of interest in Kirkis from other big clubs, so he will probably be really motivated for game week 38. He can deliver both attacking returns and a clean sheet in game week 38. So if you need to make a transfer in defense, I think that Kirkis is a really good transfer target. Alexander Isak to Evan Nilsson might be my transfer for game week 38. So Alexander Isak, he hasn't really looked that great recently. I know that he scored 9 points in game week 36, but this was due to a penalty. He didn't really look good in that game either. So selling Alexander Isak to Evan Nilsson makes sense when you consider the ownership. He is selected by 57%, and you're getting in a big differential, only selected by 4% of the managers. So for me, it makes sense to try to target some differentials on the final day, especially if you're chasing in your mid league or if you're not satisfied with your rank. So Alexander Isak to Evan Nilsson will probably be one of my transfers. Another player I'm really tempted to bring in is Saka. I actually have a pretty strong midfield, so Esse is one of the players that I might consider selling. I know Esse, he has been really impressive recently, but on paper the fixture against Liverpool doesn't really look that great. He was benched in game week 37 but came on and scored, so I think that Esse probably will start in game week 38, and there might actually be some goals in Liverpool against Crystal Palace game, so I will probably consider selling Esse, but I will take a look at another option to bring in Saka as well. Rodgers to Saka, I know that there is a big price gap between them, 5.8 Rodgers and 10.3 Saka, so you probably need to downgrade someone to afford the upgrade from Rodgers to Saka. But when we take a look at the ownership, 26% for Rodgers, 17% for Saka. I think that Saka's effective ownership, as mentioned, is much lower, so Saka is a big differential in game week 38. I really like the fixture as well, playing away against Southampton. Rodgers has a decent fixture against Man U, but Man U, they will probably field a really strong team in game week 38. Man United are actually one of the biggest clubs in the world, so they will fight for their pride, and I think that they will put up a decent performance in game week 38. So I like Rodgers in the fixture actually, but I'm so tempted by Saka. I will probably try to keep Esse, so Rodgers to Saka might actually be one of my transfers this game week. I might be tempted to do a defensive transfer as well. I have a couple of players with bad fixtures and a couple of injuries in my defense, so selling Trippier to bring in Kirkis is really tempting. This will be for a -4. I only have 2 free transfers, but first priority for me will be to sell Alexander Isak to Evan Nilsson and one of the midfielders to Saka, but I will probably do a defensive transfer as well, and Trippier to Kirkis is the one that is most tempting at the moment. Trippier, he'll probably miss out. I have Munoz as well. He has a tough fixture against Liverpool. I know that Munoz can deliver attacking returns, but can't really see Crystal Palace keeping a clean sheet against Liverpool on the final day. Saliba, he might play, but I will probably just do this transfer and make sure that I will have 11 players for the last game of the season. Jared Bowen is one of the captain contenders for game week 38. In form, really good fixture, and Jared Bowen is only selected by 13% still, so he's actually still to be considered as somewhat of a differential. In game week 38, West Ham, they are playing against Ipswich. They have kept 0 clean sheets, conceded 8 goals, 9 big chances, 15 shots on target, and they have an expected goal, so 7.26. So Ipswich, one of the worst teams defensively, 8 goals conceded and 7.26 expected goals conceded is not really impressive. So I think that West Ham can do really well against Ipswich in game week 38, and Jared Bowen might be a really good captain option. If I bring in Evan Nilsson, I will consider him for captaincy as well. Playing against Leicester looks really good on paper, but I was kind of surprised when I started looking at Leicester's defensive numbers. They actually have kept 2 clean sheets, only conceded 3 goals, 7 big chances, 13 shots on target, and they have an expected goals conceded of 5.26. So the defensive numbers for Leicester are actually quite impressive, but they haven't really played against the strongest teams recently, so I think that the game Bournemouth against Leicester will have a lot of goals in it. So Evan Nilsson is still one of the players I'm considering for captaincy. One of the problems with Evan Nilsson is that he is not on penalties. Justin Kluivert will take penalties for Bournemouth. Same goes for Jared Bowen. We know that Pakta will most probably take West Ham's penalties, so I will take a look at one last captain option who ticks this box as well. Saka, he ticks most boxes for me in Gameweek 38. He is nailed on, really good fixture, and he is on penalties. I like captaining a midfielder as well. That extra point for goals and the potential extra point for a clean sheet is something to consider. So Saka in Gameweek 38, really good fixture against Southampton. They have kept 0 clean sheets, conceded 6 goals. 6 big chances, 17 shots on target, and they have an expected goals conceded of 8.37. So when we take a look at big chances and shots on target, Southampton, they have been decent, but overall, when we take a look at expected goals conceded, Southampton, they are still one of the worst defensive teams in the league. So Saka, he will probably be my captain for game week 38. So let me know in the comments down below who will be your captain in the last game week this season.